Orthodoxy in the Contemporary World, found in the 1965 Orthodox Word, Volume 1, Number 1. Persecution of religion in the Soviet Union. It is difficult for us in the free world even to conceive under what conditions believers live behind the Iron Curtain. But those who are being persecuted and martyred by the communist regime are our brothers in faith, and we cannot close our eyes to their sufferings. More, it is our duty to find out and make known their privations, indeed the tortures and deaths they are undergoing for the Orthodox faith. Almost unknown to the world, a new and fierce persecution, rivaling those of the 20s and 30s, was undertaken by the Soviet power in 1959. The Orthodox Word will make it a policy to present information on this persecution, as well as lives of the earlier martyrs of this century. The following news item, translated in full from the San Francisco newspaper Russian Life, will serve without comment as an introduction to a martyrology of the 20th century. Church of the Apostles Peter and Paul blown up in Moscow. Frankfurt, A.M., May, September 16. The Information Division of the NTS informs that according to intelligence received from Moscow, at 4 a.m. on July 11 of this year, the church dedicated to the Apostles Peter and Paul in Moscow was blown up. The Soviet authorities, according to this communication, had long been eyeing this church in Moscow, but as long as the parish was headed by the energetic rector Archpriest Sergei, they undertook no decisive measures. At the beginning of summer, Father Sergei fell ill. He was placed in a hospital, where he died early in July. Immediately after the death of the rector, the church was closed by order of Soviet authorities. On July 10, the rumor went through Moscow that the church was going to be blown up at night. Towards evening, believers began to gather at the church. The whole district was surrounded by troops, but believers broke through the cordon of the militia and filled up the whole square in front of the church. Eyewitnesses assert that at least 6,000 to 7,000 believers had gathered. As a further measure, the church itself was surrounded by troops, but a small group of believers succeeded in forcing their way into the church. In this group, there were 12 people. The militia attempted to remove the believers from the church, but they refused to leave. At the door of the church, there was an argument with the militia. One woman brought out a pamphlet of Soviet laws and told the militia that it had no right to blow up the church. One of the members of the militia was heard by the crowd to shout a reply. "To us, everything is permitted. If you want, stay here. With you or without you, all the same, we're going to blow up the church." Exactly at 4 a.m. on July 11, the explosion went off and the church collapsed. A large number of those who were present at the square have attested the fact that at the time of the explosion, the believers were in the church praying, and all were killed. Editor's note: the church referred to is the one that was located on the square of the Transfiguration. It is not mentioned in the article whether this Soviet atrocity was deliberately planned to occur the day before the feast of the Apostles Peter and Paul, and of the church, July 12, June 29. First French Orthodox Bishop. The Orthodox Catholic Church of France received its first bishop in a service in the Russian cathedral in San Francisco on November 11, 1964. The head of the French Church, the Reverend Evgraf Kovalevsky, was consecrated during the Divine Liturgy by His Eminence Archbishop John Maximovich of San Francisco and Western America, and His Eminence Bishop Theophilos of the Romanian Orthodox Church in exile. The French Orthodox Church, which entered the jurisdiction of the Russian Orthodox Church outside of Russia in 1959, while Archbishop John was Archbishop of Brussels and Western Europe, is nonetheless purely French and completely distinct from Russian parishes in France. The new bishop is the only Russian among his clergy. All services are in French and in the Western Rite. There are at present 20 parishes, the largest in Paris, and about 5,000 members. Father Evgraf, who was accompanied to San Francisco by 2 French priests and several laymen, received, according to French custom, a double name at his consecration: Jean Nectaire, after 2 recently canonized saints, the Russian Saint John of Kronstadt, died in 1908, and the Greek Saint Nectarios of Pentapolis, died in 1920. By a ukase of October 17, 1964, the Synod of the Russian Orthodox Church entrusted in Archbishop John future care of the French Church and all other churches of the Western Rite.